In today's episode of the Passing Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Kayla Kerr, and she's taking over as a VP of marketing over at Applied. And at Applied, they're an ethical and predictive recruitment platform. So basically, it's a hiring software that helps to improve diversity and predicts the best candidates for your organization. So, Kayla, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Of course, yeah. So maybe give us a quick 360 overview. What is Applied all about in your own words?
So we Applied's been around for about 5 years. We've been growing really steadily over that time. And as you say, we are the ethical and predictive hiring platform. And so what that means is, in practice, we help HR teams, people teams, hiring managers to make sure that they are getting the right talent in. And it's also really, really helpful for things like diversity, things like inclusion, and all that other great stuff that we know we need to have. So what it looks like in practice is there's no CVs. You simply answer some questions, some skills-based questions as a candidate about the role that you're applying for, and you try to summarize your experience within your answers to those questions. The reason we do that is to eliminate the biases that might be present within the mind of the interviewer. And so we know we all have bias built into our brains. It's there to help our brains make decisions when there's too much information that it can't sort of sort through. And we also know from lots of research that you can't de-bias people. You can't unbias people, but you can unbias processes. And so that's at the heart of everything that we do. Our team originated within the Behavioural Insights team for the UK government, the Nudge Unit, as it was known as. And so it really is built on some really solid behavioural science to eliminate that bias along the hiring process. So that's our mission, really, making hiring fairer.
Very cool. Now, maybe tell me a bit more, like which type of organizations would benefit the most from the platform? Is there like a certain amount of, open positions that would need a certain amount of, as you were saying, process in place so it start making sense? Like, what is an ideal candidate?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be sort of, hiring fairly regularly. I mean, it really helps. So in terms of the diversity data and all of that we can report on, it only starts to really come into its own once you've got a certain amount of volume in there so that you can start reporting the data. So businesses can start to see how diversity is improving over time, the profile of the types of people that make it through to interview stage, for example, or second interview stage. We tend to work really well with non-profit organizations, charity organizations. I guess that's because, they need to really reflect the communities that they're serving.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like the diversity of their team, whether that's gender, racial, age diversity, are really important. And so we definitely we work with quite a lot of charities, quite a lot of non-profit organizations, also quite a lot of government organizations. So where there's the mission-driven fit, we work really, really well. Sporting organizations also, we've got quite a few of those, and even consultancies, financial organizations. It's really across the board. I wouldn't say we're an enterprise product. Mm-hmm. It's more for the kind of smaller and medium-sized sort of enterprise businesses, but yeah, because they generally have less other technology in place and other kind of platforms for us to plug into. It tends to be an easier onboarding for the customers and an easier use case.
Makes sense. And what
would you business?
Great. And what would you say? How do these sort of HR managers and teams that are picking up on the platform, how do they learn about you guys? Like, what's their typical journey looking like?
Well, they tend to come into us inbound. So we have a lot of channels that we go out on. We've been large users of things like webinars. things like this, sessions and training sessions and other kind of D&I training to really get our message across. So quite a lot of the people that come to us find us through, they've done some training with us, even though we're not a training organization, but it's just the education that we like to put out there into the world, something we know quite a lot about. And so they've either done some training with us, they find us through the usual inbound routes. All of the team are quite heavy social media LinkedIn users.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have quite a big network that way. But also we do find that there's quite a big word of mouth contingent. So within the industries that we serve really well, they tend to know each other and move around. So we'll quite often see someone's implemented, applied at a workplace, they'll move workplace and they'll bring us with them. So that's a really nice organic way to grow as well.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Now, what role do you think the website plays? How do you think about the website in their buyer's journey?
Oh, the website's huge. So we have a really well built out library of resources that we have and that we always use. And so certainly to our blog, to our webinars, to all of our guides and hints and tips and checklists, they generate a huge amount of traffic, and they're really great, both in terms of lead builders for us, but also educating the community more widely about the issues and how to solve them. And, we firmly believe that businesses should be hiring this way, and you don't have to use technology to do it. Our technology exists, but there are other ways to hire more fairly and more inclusively without necessarily using technology. So that's one big kind of entrance path for the website. I think another is that, people just tend to find us quite organically through it. And it's usually they've heard of it from someone else, or they've found it from another site, from another path, which is great for us, that we are being discussed and being openly talked about out there in communities and in HR communities as well. We do an awful lot of event talks and speeches as well, in that kind of thing, to get us out there. But in terms of the path through the website itself, it's there's an awful lot to learn. There's an awful lot of information on there, but we find that we get people coming through and just wanting to play with the system, just have a look at it. We've got things like a video on demand demo now that you can actually go in and play and click around, and we find that that's a really popular one. People love to be able to do that. And we make much of our features as well, because we're like most startups, we're still a growing and building product and business. So we're adding new things all the time, and that's a great way to really showcase the full breadth of what we do. Very
good. Cool. As we sort of, have chatted a little bit about what you guys are doing and who you're serving, I'm interested in basically learning a little bit more about yourself, right? Now, with so much content out there for marketers, where do you personally feel you finding the best and most valuable information? There's so much noise out there. What do you like to consume?
Where do I like to get my
marketing information? Is it a blogs, podcast, LinkedIn groups, peers? Like, what do you personally prefer?
I'm a big podcast listener. And I love that podcasts are also doing the video now as well. So you can kind of, I do find myself dipping in and out if I see, there's a video of this one on LinkedIn, or there's a video on this one on one of my different social apps. And then I might want to go and listen to the full episode, or I might just want to dip into the smaller pieces. So I'm a big fan of that for my marketing news. But also what I found to be really great recently is the newsletter on LinkedIn, where you get invited to sign up for a newsletter that then comes to you. It's something that we're doing as well at Applied, and I just find it's hugely useful. It's a great use of the LinkedIn network, and how people can use it for actually really decent content on there now. People's newsletters aren't all about just their business. I find that people are sharing other third-party links that might be interesting, other stories that might be interesting that are going on within the industry. Yeah, so I think those are my main ones. I'm just getting into TikTok.
Nice.
I'm older TikTok generation, so I'm really trying to get into that.
Cool. As we're slowly wrapping it up for today, I got some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Okay, yeah.
What is the last book that you read?
Oh, it's Fix the System, Not the Women by Laura Bates. Very good, recommend it.
What's the last thing that what's the one thing that your company is focused on the most about?
Fair hiring. So we want to create a fairer world, one hire at a time. That's our whole vision.
Nice. If basically you would have a magic wand, right? Like, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
Oh, good one. Attribution. I'd like to see where everything comes from. No more direct traffic, please, Google.
So is that actually directed at the specific fact that there's a lot of direct traffic typically, and it's hard to tell where they're from? Because a lot of marketers mention it on the show. What do you find particularly challenging about attribution?
We don't always, so the information that we see isn't always the truth. So we're trying to do a lot more self-reported attribution as well, because it's really important to understand from a user's point of view what the path they've taken there is. Like HubSpot might tell us, oh yeah, Google, or this is where it's come from, but actually, oh no, because I heard you talk at a speech and then I heard someone else mention that they use you, and to get a fuller picture of that is so important. And we've just got to go back to the good old-fashioned, how did you hear about us?
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Hiring. So I'm hiring for 2 roles in my team at the moment, and yeah, making sure I'm getting the right people in my team, the best people in my team. I'm very lucky that I've had lots of excellent applications. But yeah, hiring right now, my brain is busy with that.
Very cool. And for the very last question, if today would be your very first day at Applied, what's the one thing, or what's the one advice you would give yourself?
Wow. Take your time. It's a big learning curve. It's a big product. And so I started a year ago, actually, almost to the day. And kind of there were points within that year where I thought I understood everything. The first being like the first couple of months, I'm like, oh yeah, I've done all the reading, I've done all the chatting to everybody. I completely understand this whole process and this whole system. But you absolutely don't. So take your time is what I would say, and really get in depth and understand everything deeply.
Very cool. Very good. Thanks a lot for being a guest on Platform Presents.
Thank you so much.